Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let's talk about the month of November. If you are an Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is going to be the video for you. The entirety of the month of November is going to really start for Aries placements as a month of great transformation. You may find yourself particularly feeling this month, especially in the beginning of November, because we are in Scorpio season. We also begin this month between the 1st and the 3rd with Mars in the sign of Scorpio. And there are two ruling signs of Mars, Scorpio, and your sign, Aries. So you may find yourself really transforming. This is going to be a time where you could have a lot of intense experiences, especially in these first few days of November. And generally, things might feel like a little intense, especially in this first part. As we get into the later part of November, we are about to have a lot of major transits to Sagittarius, which for you, this is going to be a time of great expansion. You may find yourself having more travel opportunities. You may also find yourself focusing more on themes of astrology or just spirituality in general, and things will become a lot easier for you. The very first part of November will not be as easy because of how many transits we will have in Scorpio. However, for the majority of November, we will be in Scorpio season, so at least the sun will be in the sign of Scorpio. So there will be some transformation this month for you. It will be kind of intense emotionally. There might be some intense experiences that you have this month. You may also find yourself focusing more on relationships, your taxes, things like inheritances, and also kind of focusing more on like occult themes as well. Like again, like astrology, something around those themes you may find yourself really focused on. As we really get into November though, while you'll be experiencing these major transformative themes, you may also find yourself kind of secluding yourself this month. You may find yourself kind of protecting your energy, which can be very prevalent when you experience these types of themes. You may find yourself focusing more on your spirituality or more on themes of self-preservation and protecting your energy. You may also find yourself having kind of like a spiritual awakening during this time as well. Both Neptune, Saturn, and the North Node are currently transiting the sign of Pisces for you, which is a very spiritual place. They will continue to transit this area of life for you until February. And that's when you'll experience both Saturn and Neptune re-entering your sign of Aries. So all of this spiritual work that you do up front between November and February, and especially in the month of November, is going to really be preparing you for what you experience when Neptune re-enters your sign of Aries in February. Because when Neptune re-enters the sign of Aries, it will stay there for 14 years. And when Neptune transits your sign, this will bring a major focus on themes of creativity, spirituality. You may find yourself really going through a major spiritual awakening. You may also become an astrologer yourself or some other theme that's tied to spirituality. And you may also really identify as an artist. You may start learning new gifts and talents that you've had, and you may find yourself becoming like a visual artist, like, you know, like a pen and paper drawing, that type of artist. Or you may also find yourself becoming like a music artist or something not as tangible as like, you know, like a pen and paper type of artist. You may find yourself focusing more on those themes. This time when we have all of these planets in the sign of Pisces is kind of like the building era for you, and especially with all these planets in the sign of Scorpio too. It's like the transformation into embracing these themes in your life. On November 4th, we will have the planet Mars enter the sign of Sagittarius. And for you, this is a place of travel, of expansion, of spirituality, of higher purpose, higher learning. And because we're also talking about the month of November here, it is very likely you could find yourself traveling very frequently this month. This could be traveling to see family, traveling for the holidays. There will be a major focus on travel in your life during this time. You may also find yourself kind of focusing more on philosophy. You may find yourself learning philosophy or also going back to school. You may find yourself taking a course at a university, at some sort of college. You may also find yourself taking some sort of extracurricular class as well, or just focusing more on like your studies. Like you may have to study something if you're in college and university, or you may have to write a paper, or you may also have to study something for your current profession as well. You may have to grow and expand your knowledge. And this month, especially after the 4th of November, is going to be one of the best times to do this. You will naturally find yourself wanting to expand your knowledge and kind of expand your horizons as it relates to all of the things that you want to achieve, as well as like study and grow your knowledge with. If you've ever wanted to learn a new skill, if you finally need to get some sort of accreditation, some sort of course, some sort of certificate for your job or even for school, the month of November will be the best time to do this. You may also find yourself naturally achieving more this month as well. And on November 7th, we will have Venus enter the sign of Scorpio. And for you, this is kind of like a very positive financial transit. It is going to be majorly focused on your finances as it relates to taxes, shared resources. If you own a business, if you have a side hustle, you may find yourself attracting more finances in your life during this time. And you will also just have more focus in your life on your finances in general. It's also very likely that you could receive a sudden inheritance during this month after the 7th of November. And a word of caution, during this time when Venus is in the sign of Scorpio, you may find yourself attracting intense relationships. I would lean on the side of caution of any relationships you enter after the 7th, because these might be kind of emotional and meshing and kind of intense. The relationships you experience before the 7th, like on the 1st through the 6th, these will be more positive. After the 7th, when Venus enters the sign of Scorpio, this will naturally bring some intense relationships into your life. If you enter any sort of romantic relationship, you may have some intense themes, especially when Venus is transiting that sign for you. You may also find yourself just kind of having intense moments this month in general, with all of the focus on Scorpio energy. And this will kind of go hand in hand with the fact that the sun will be transiting Scorpio as well. On the 8th of November, the planet Uranus will go back into the sign of Taurus. It has been retrograde since about September. Uranus is retrograde every single year from about September until February or March, give or take the year. And it started off in the sign of Gemini this year, and Uranus is officially going back into the sign of Taurus on the 8th of November. So for you, you may find yourself having a sudden change in your long-term relationships. You may find yourself entering a partnership that was kind of unexpected. You may also find yourself attracting relationships with people who are kind of unique and also kind of different, because if you're an Aries rising, Aquarius rules your 11th house. When Uranus goes back into the sign of Taurus for you, you may find yourself unexpectedly entering a relationship with somebody who was once a friend, someone who's in your social circles. You may find yourself developing a long-term partnership with them. You're very likely to experience this energy, and romantically, I would always kind of lean on the side of caution. You'll be more focused on your long-term relationships, your romances, your long-term partnerships during this month, especially after the 8th, but there will be some sort of unexpectedness to the relationship that you enter after the 8th. And Uranus will stay in the sign of Taurus really until 2026. So in November, we are also going to be having a Mercury retrograde starting in the sign of Sagittarius, and it will go back into the sign of Scorpio about halfway through this month. The Mercury retrograde that we experience in the month of November will be from the 9th of November until the 29th of November. So about 20 days there, we will have Mercury retrograde in the month of November, including on Thanksgiving as well. So during this month, you may find yourself reassessing themes of travel, of your relationships as well, of any intense moments you may have had, any sort of emotional enmeshing relationships. This will also be a really powerful time to kind of reassess what you do for a living, your financial situation, if you want to grow and expand your finances, if you want to become more successful in your business, if you may have any, you may also find yourself starting some sort of business or some sort of side hustle during Mercury retrograde. It will be a time of great revelation, and you may also really find yourself really thinking about the themes of your finances and how to become more successful financially. You may also have some major themes around other people's resources. You may find yourself doing something where you only take rideshare services, like you only start taking some sort of like rideshare carpool service, which is another person's resource. You may find yourself also renting out a room in your house, You may also find yourself renting a room. There will be some sort of major transformation around shared resources for you. This will also be a time to kind of focus on all of your agreements, like your lease agreements, things like that, and making sure everything is good and making sure that everything is proper. So during Mercury retrograde, you may have a lot of intellectual focus on these themes, and just kind of make sure that everything is good as it relates to any contract, because Uranus will also be back in the sign of Taurus during this time too. So there may be some sort of focus on long-term agreements, relationships, contracts, those type of themes. So the best advice I can give you for Mercury retrograde this year is make sure that you are all good. Everything is kind of squared away. And everything is really squared away to kind of protect you, because Uranus will be going back into the sign of Taurus during this time, at the same time as you have Mercury retrograde also going to be in the sign of Scorpio this month. So major transformation with contracts, relationships, any sort of legal agreements, that type of stuff. You may find yourself focusing more on these themes, and the more you kind of tailor things to you, the more safe you will be. Always take practical steps to protect your energy and protect everything else. On the 22nd of November, the sun will enter the sign of Sagittarius. This will be kind of a little bit easier for you from the beginning of this month. First through the 22nd, the sun will be in the sign of Scorpio, and for you, being an Aries sun, moon, or rising, this is intense. This is not as easy of a time as you'll experience after the 22nd. Once the sun goes into the sign of Sagittarius, that will be one thing that starts to turn in your favor. You may find yourself traveling more frequently. And again, kind of considering the time frame of when the sun enters the sign of Sagittarius, you are more than likely going to be traveling for the holidays, traveling to see family, something like that. And you may find yourself kind of having more opportunities for travel during this time, and also kind of focusing more on higher education, philosophy, and themes like astrology. Because you'll have all of this focus on Scorpio energy for the majority of this month, you may also find yourself focusing naturally more on themes of astrology and kind of navigating your day-to-day life with it. When the sun goes into Sagittarius, this will just be another positive layer onto this. So you'll have more key things happening and just more positive things as it relates to higher learning, philosophy, themes like astrology, and other spirituality. The day of Thanksgiving on the 27th, we're having some major things happening. Saturn is going to go direct in the sign of Pisces after being retrograde since July. So when Saturn goes direct in the sign of Pisces, this is going to make your life easier. You're going to start to feel a lot better, and things are generally going to be just a lot easier and better. That's the best way to put it. When Saturn is transiting the sign of Pisces for you, this is a place of great spirituality. You may also find yourself wanting to kind of seclude yourself during this time. When it's direct in the sign of Pisces, things become easier. Things become much better for you. You may have some major breakthroughs with spirituality. You may also find yourself wanting to kind of protect your energy more. You may also have some major revelations, some major breakthroughs, and this will continue to be kind of more positive vibes and more positive energy as it relates to these themes. Once we really get into Saturn going back into your sign, into the sign of Aries, you're going to start to become more disciplined, and there will be a lot of focus on you starting in February 2026. This is kind of like that chill period before you experience that starting in February. So you may have some major spiritual breakthroughs. You may also become more interested in themes like astrology, something of that nature, when we have Saturn go direct in the sign of Pisces. The other thing that's happening on Thanksgiving is that Mercury will be retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. I would be very cautious about conversations you have with family members. There could easily be some sort of intensity that day, especially with the other things kind of happening in the sky during that day with Saturn going direct. You might have some intense moments on Thanksgiving because it's going to be in the sign of Scorpio, along with Venus in the sign of Scorpio. This is going to be a major time where you may have intense moments with your family members. For you in particular, more than the other signs, you're more than likely going to experience this. But I would always lean on the side of caution and always kind of protect your energy during this time. On the final day of November, on the 30th, we will have Venus entering the sign of Sagittarius. Things are about to lighten up so much for you. Things are about to become so much better and a lot easier for you. And you might find yourself traveling too. Like, I feel like this is going to be a time where you're going to be really having some major travel opportunities. This could be traveling to see family, traveling for a business trip, or just incorporating travel in your life on the day-to-day in some capacity. This is going to be one of the best times for you to do this, and you will also have a lot of luck with travel, especially on the 30th. You'll have all of your travel moments become very smooth, very safe. Venus is such a benevolent and positive planet that it is going to be very, very positive for you. So this was the month of November for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.